Now here's to show you the design process itself. So here's the outline of the bed, and then this is the back of the border where I've drawn the hedge in now, and I've inked that in because it's not going to change. And then I've separated the whole bed out into sections which we can sometimes call bays or planting areas. Now you just don't put one or two plants in an area of a bed that size. To give it real impact, you would probably have round about 7 or 8 plants that are absolutely identical to be put in one area. So I've divided this out into areas. Normally the areas are round about 1 metre deep, and for a bed that size around about 2 to 3 metres long. It depends on what you want. Some people would like more types of plants in a border, so the areas would be smaller. I quite like big areas because I feel that they give good impact, good visual impact in design. So there we go. So I've put these into bays where it's at its deepest point in the bed, where it's around about sort of 3 metres deep. You can have 3 different layers, but where it's round about 2 metres deep a border, you can usually only get round about 2 layers in terms of your plants in there. Right, so once you've got it into the bays, and you put the bays in before you even start thinking about what plants you would put in. That's one way of doing it. That's how landscape architects do it. And then you choose the plants for the different areas. Oh, I haven't got a bay highlighted in there. Right, so you've got to then think about if there are any clashes with plants, what you're going to put next to each other. But the other thing that you've got to think about is not just about clashes in terms of colours, but you want to have contrasting foliage. So that would be foliage where the type of leaf shape would be different from one plant that's next door to another. So you don't want 2 grasses next to each other, or 2 ferns next to each other, or 2 plants with linear leaves next to each other, because they're not really going to show one another off. So you want something that's maybe large and palmy next to something that's of a linear shaped leaf. You've also got to think about colours, and one of the most important things is you've got to get your heights right. Your heights have got to go from low to medium to high at the back. There's no point in having a higher plant and then a smaller one behind it. One, visually, it's terrible in terms of the effect on your eye. Your eye movement along the border just stops, it arrests at the point, and you think, oh my goodness, that's just terrible. So what you want is a nice good flow in your border, and you can get that if you get the height positions correct. So it's usually recommended at the front of the border of a height from about ground cover up to about 75 centimetres. And then for middle of the border, 75 centimetres to about 1.5 metres is a good guide. And then at the back of the border, it's usually from about 175 to 2 metres plus at the back. And so I've chosen the different plants for the areas in here. And then once you've chosen the plants for the different areas, the next part, the progression along is to then start drawing the symbols in. So the symbols for trees and shrubs are just ordinary circles. You can get more fancy ones like I've done for the hedges at the back there, but simple circles is best, I find, a lot of the time, especially if you're not that good at drawing and you don't want to do the artistic symbols. Everyone can draw a circle, especially if you've got a template. Now you have to really use a template, otherwise it looks very amateurish, your drawings. How do you put if this is a Mahonia cross media, for example, how do you get the Mahonia on the paper? Well, what you do is you research, or if you know the actual width of the Mahonia and you know it's the right height for the back of the border, you would take the width of the Mahonia and you would half the eventual width of it to 50% to 75% of its eventual width, and then you would take that as the width that you would draw in here as. So with the Polystichum or any herbaceous, normally it's about 3 to 5 plants per square metre, so you can work out how many you need from that. Now the Euonymus has been drawn in, the Sarcococca has been drawn in, the Carex, which is herbaceous, has been drawn in, as well as the Polystichum, the Hamamelis, the Ilex, the Mahonia, and then I would just work my way along here, filling in the rest of the border, and then once you're happy with it, you can then ink it in. I've got, from a smaller border, I've got some really good examples to show you from start to the finish. Now here's a smaller border that I have done earlier, and it takes you through the various stages of the planting design. So this is a very simple border. This one is of rectangular shape here, and then you can see that the survey, we've drawn it on the paper, we've then put it into the different planting bays, bay, and so on, and then I've gone and chosen the plants for each different bay here, and then I've written within here the actual height and then the spread. The height always comes first before the spread in terms of how it's written. So if you're just given a dimension like 1 times 75, it always means that the first number is the height and the second number is the spread, and that's quite important to write down there, so you're not always continually having to look back at your notes or look up a book to see what the width of it is. When you go into drawing your symbols, you can just do them straight away. So remember, if the spread, for example, is 75, that can be drawn in at half of 75, round about up to 50 centimetres on the scale. And so this is how these are drawn in the bays. In blue here would be this herbaceous here, which is Libertia peregrinans. If you actually drew that in the eventual width, you can see how many circles you would have, so it's much better to have drawn it in down here as just the herbaceous symbol, which could either have just been an oblong shape or more of an artistic splurge to represent the area where that herbaceous plant is going to go. So you can see that the Helichrysum's a shrub. You could either have drawn it in with a simple circle, or you could do a more artistic version. Same for the rosemary, and this is the Erysimum. So this is step 1, where you draw in your survey and then you put your bays in. Step 2 is to actually then decide which plants are going to go next to each other in these particular bays. Step 3 is to then draw the plant symbols in for the particular plants that you've chosen, and then step 4 is to then ink it in and then rub out any pencil marks, and then you're ready to do the finishing touches like colouring.